Super happy to have James Ham, our 1320 Kings insider, and James Ham of the Insiders on ESPN 1320, 10 to noon, Monday through Friday, here on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, ESPN 1320, 98.5 FM, the Odyssey app. Tune in wherever you choose to consume this radio station. You will find James Ham and Kyle Madsen Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12. James, we missed you last week, man. We're glad you're back. We have so much to catch up on. I'm very eager to know how you feel about Usher being the halftime show this year in Vegas.
Oh, I like Usher.
Okay.
I think that works. I don't know. He can put on a show, right?
Oh, yeah, he can absolutely put on a show. This show's going to be fire.
Yeah, and I think because they're in Vegas, they're going to get a whole lot of other people to pop up. Like, hey, look, I surprised you with this superstar.
Oh, yeah, that's going to happen.
It'll be like going to a Kansas City Chiefs game.
Well, I heard you guys talking about the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce combo on that was the that was the biggest story in the NFL yesterday, which is bordering on comical. A team put up 70 points yesterday, but Taylor Swift being at the Chiefs game was a very big deal.
Yeah, I know. Tua's like, what do I have to do? You know,
Data
like we just dropped 70 on Casey's Denver Broncos, which
that's right.
Yeah, I think it's gone from let's ride to we got run over.
Yeah,
like that. Whatever's happening there in Denver is a hot mess. I thought like Jason Garrett just calling out the Denver Broncos and Sean Payton for just having his team quit on him. Man, it's week 3 and you're already having that discussion. That's not good. It's not good. But Miami was like, they're incredible. Jesse's just got to be so excited right now.
A good rule of thumb, if you get called out by Jason Garrett on national television, man, you screwed up. Oh, my God, you screwed up so bad if you got called out by Jason Garrett.
Yeah,
when
that happens and you don't even really feel like he's being, like, hypocritical, you're like, oof, I don't even know what to say, man. You gave up 70, and there's no lies there. Your team quit. Yeah. And the other team, they knew they quit. Because that's what happens. When you sense that somebody quits like that, all right, game on. Let's do this. Like, if they want to give us all the yards, let's go get an MVP conversation right now.
That was one of the most impressive games I've seen. Like, that 70 points that they put up, that the Dolphins put up, was one of the most impressive games I've seen. They just effortlessly did it.
Yeah,
the flow of the game scored 70.
I totally agree. And when you're, when you play fantasy football and you're like, man, Mostert had a huge game.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go on and look and like the other guy in the backfield had 203 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, like 50 or 60 yards receiving. And fantasy wise scored like almost 50. That's what, as the other running back. That was just crazy.
A chain. 203 yards on the ground. Phenomenal stuff. James, let's talk. We could talk more football as the day progresses. We were talking about a couple of things as we were coming back from commercial. We really missed you at the live show on Thursday at Sky River, and we called in. We needed an NBA insider. We were able to get our man Chris Haynes to come hang out with us, and Chris was talking. And some of the things that he said got up a lot of attention in the NBA media. Like, we really dove in pretty deep into the Dame Lillard trade request and discussions and everything that had happened. But James had asked, maybe he thought it was a live show and didn't know we were on the radio. Well, I can confirm he didn't know we were on the radio, or he forgot, I should say, that we were on the radio as he let one of our favorite words slip out. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. And shout out to Charlie, who was in the studio. He caught it, he heard it, and again, like, it's 2023. That stuff doesn't really matter anymore. I mean, it does, but most people aren't going to write an email to the FCC about it. But Chris was a professional. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. It's just so comfortable up here. I thought it was a podcast." But if you haven't heard our conversation with Chris Haynes yet, strongly encourage you to head over to YouTube or head over to the podcast feed on Odyssey or Apple or whatever, and take a listen to it. Really, really great stuff from Chris Haynes. Talked about how Miami and just won't talk to Portland, just refuses to talk to Portland. And Miami's like, look, we know we don't have what you want, but tell us what you want and we'll go try to get it for you. And James, we're a week away from training camp starting. And Chris told us, like, Dame's gonna show up at camp. Like, he's not like I'm pretty confident he's going to. And now it becomes and this was the question I asked him. Well, then what? Like, what are you gonna do after that? You're gonna show up at camp. Like, are you gonna get in front of the media? Are you gonna hold a press conference? Like, what conversation are you having with the Portland Trailblazers? And again, there's a ton more in that conversation we had with Chris. It's just, James, we're a week away.
It's wild, and Chris knows this story inside and out. He knows it better than anyone. He's one of the guys that covered Dame for years as a beat writer in Portland. Not only that, but he has really, really deep ties to Damian Lillard's agent. Like that's what this is. Chris is the guy for this story, and I know we're starting to see more and more people come out and say, "Hey, look, Toronto all of a sudden is a big time player in this deal." We got Chicago's interested. The rumor I saw this morning that now Boston is the team to watch for. And I think all of these things like this, it's going to happen pretty quickly. I think it's going to speed up here. And I don't expect Dame to wait around that long. If he does show up to Portland camp, what I would assume that they're going to do is they're going to have him hanging out and he's not going to play. He might get a sweat up on a sweat in on the court next door, and he might be part of team discussions and hanging out and be a voice for Scoot Henderson to talk to. But at the end of the day, they're not going to risk putting him out there. Not right now. Like, why would you? Because what if he blows out a knee and all of a sudden you're stuck in this situation with a guy with an injury, a long term injury? And I think you put him in bubble wrap and you just sit back and you wait until the right thing happens, unless you feel like there's no other recourse other than to put him out there and play him. But that team is not going to be very good. And it
So
doesn't. Go ahead.
so I'm glad you brought that up because Chris brought up something I had not once thought about in this discussion. The player participation policy. They can't just sit Dame Lillard.
Yeah, I think that there's, to quote David Stern, life is a negotiation.
Hmm.
Like everyone knows where this thing's heading, and so I'm gonna guess that they're going to have something in place where he doesn't have to play. When it was last season at the end of the year and they shut him down, like sure, we all understood what was going on there, but this is different. He's an asset at this point. Like he was the franchise. He's no longer the franchise. He's your best asset to go get whatever it is that you need to restart your rebuild here and to like sort of jumpstart what's happening. And I I feel for Portland because you know this thing was heading down this path for so long. And then they did something silly, like went out and spent a bunch of money bringing back their own free agents. They overpaid to try to make him happy. And none of that was going to make him happy. They should have just understood long before that this is the way that this thing was heading. They've got great young players. I really like Simon. I like, Shaden Sharp has a ton of talent.
Mm-hmm.
Scoot Henderson to me is like, you just hand the franchise to him right now. That's where you go. Like he's built for this, and this is who he's going to be as a pro. And Jeremy Grant can play there for a couple of years, I guess, but you probably shouldn't have brought him back either, and you probably should hit the reset button completely.
The Toronto's another hot name that has emerged recently to potentially be in talks. I think Mark Spears, our buddy, the Hall of Famer, Mark Spears, has really spearheaded that conversation. NBA Central, they should be ashamed of themselves for the way that they worded this tweet. But for the sake of everybody, I'm going to read it. Jesse, you ready? The Portland Trailblazers are interested in Grady Dick, per Mark Spears. Does anybody want to take a stab at what the next sentence says?
Is it a quote from Fat Joe?
It's pretty damn close. The Blazers would want Dick in any potential deal with Toronto involving Dame Lillard.
Hey, Portland, you do you.
Toronto really going for it.
Well,
come on, Portland. Come on, NBA Central. You guys got to be better than that. You guys got, we're not mature enough to handle those types of tweets. Come on, man.
no.
James, it's officially 3:00. So you're listening to D-Lo and Casey on KIFM West Sacramento, 98.5 FM KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320, always live on the free Odyssey app. Fun to talk basketball, James, but let's talk Kings. We're a week away from the start of camp, and now I saw you announce the happy hour. Great. Deuce and Mo are joining. Love it. I'm going to need you to have your boy, because he is your boy, Tim Bontemps, into one of these happy hours. I'll pay double my Kings Beat subscription to be able to talk to Tim Bontemps in one of your happy hours, because he came out with his little Hoop Collective podcast with Windhurst and Tim McMahon, another low-key Sacramento Kings hater. Oh, and now that we're getting closer to the season, James, everybody is ready to come out of the woodworks and say, Sacramento's going to regress. Breakout or bust. The Kings are going to bust. They're just not going to be as good as they were last year. I like De'Aaron Fox because apparently DeMontis Sabonis doesn't exist. I like De'Aaron Fox, but he's not going to follow up what he did last year with another all-pro performance. I got this team as a bust. I got this team finishing with less wins. I could see this team being a 7th or 8th seed. Oh, James, they're all ready to talk stupid about Sacramento again.
Yeah, it sounds about right. This is on brand. It is. And I get it. Like a lot of these guys, they have to come up with winners and losers. They have to, and then they double down when they do come up with winners and losers. All of these guys, I know all of these guys. I like Tim. I could reach out to Tim right now. Like, what are you guys doing here? But
boy,
at the same time, why? Why can't you give a team that was literally the best story in the NBA last season? It was the best story. Name a better story than a team who, 16 years stuck in the mud, climbs out, gets a new head coach who does incredible things. We have a redemption story for Mike Brown. We have a redemption story for Domantas Sabonis, who I'm not sure why he needed a redemption story, but I guess we've got a redemption story for him. We see a team go out and they sign him to an extension. The deal for Halliburton won't make any sense unless they can get Sabonis signed to an extension. They signed him to an extension, and now it's like, oh my gosh, who are you competing for that extension? None of that makes any sense.
Nope.
You did the right thing as a franchise. You got the guy who is an all-pro and all-NBA third-team center. All right? You're building around him. You're building around Fox. Who says that Fox can't do this again? Just so people know, statistically speaking, he was better 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he had better stats than he did last season. So why can't he do it again? I don't know. This is kind of where these things go. And I really like what the Kings did this summer. They didn't hit the swing for the fences and get a home run. They did what they've done the last couple of summers, and that is get really, really solid base hits. You improved yourself, and you kept everyone together. Your entire coaching staff, except for Lindsey Harding, who's coaching the G League, is intact.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is back. If people think that the Kings are going to take a step back because Chimezie Metu is not on the roster or Terrence Davis isn't on the roster, I hate to tell you, they got better at those positions. Chris Duarte is an upgrade. JaVale McGee is an upgrade over what they had last season. These are things that actually matter. Sasha Vezenkov, he is an upgrade over what the Kings had last season. And those, I just named 3 players that could possibly be in the top 10 in their rotation. they did get better. And then they have the ability to get better with players like Keegan Murray, or I don't know, young players like Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox, these guys, Davion Mitchell. They can still get better. And I'm just confused why this is the team that you want to like toss everything at when you got teams like, I don't know, New Orleans, who can't keep their star healthy, or you got a team like Minnesota that completely falls apart out of nowhere almost every single season, but you've anointed Ant-Man as the next coming, so we can't touch that team. We can't get in on them. Or the Dallas Mavericks. What did Dallas do this summer after completely falling out of the playoffs last season? You brought Kyrie back, but outside of that, like, what did you do to make your team better? I don't know. Rashawn Holmes.
Did y'all see Rashawn cut his hair?
Oh,
Yeah, Rashawn cut his hair.
he kept saying he was going to do that.
I mean, when someone cuts that, that's a big deal. Like, yeah, he full on cut it. I saw it on one of maybe a Stay 22 social channels or something. But yeah, I'm with you in that, Ham. It's like, why don't you look at this team? And they, like, I hate. There's a lot of things. I'm frustrated, James. I'm frustrated with the way the Kings are being talked about. I hate they were healthy excuse, because every time these same analysts talk about a team this year, they don't bring up health. They don't bring up they might bring it up with New Orleans because of the extreme circumstances involving Zion, but they don't regularly bring it up with other teams, except when you point out the Sacramento Kings were too healthy last year. What? That's lazy. They were too healthy? Come on, man.
You can't even predict. Like, health is, well, I mean, you can predict. You can go out and get a bunch of injury-prone players and then have injury seasons. Like, let's just, like, the Los Angeles Clippers. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, your two stars miss all kinds of time. Like, you can't say, oh man, if New Orleans only knew that Zion Williamson was only going to play 34 games. Okay, well, he's only played more than 34 games one time in his career, and he sat out the entire previous season. So what is it that we're looking at? Like, the Kings go out, they practice really hard all season long. They play hard, and they stay healthy, and they fight through injury. Like, where is that? Like, the Kings won a ton of awards in this offseason. Right after the season ended, they won Monty McNair Executive of the Year. You got Mike Brown, head coach, coach of the year.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. You've got De'Aaron Fox, All NBA. You got Sabonis, All NBA. You got Keegan Murray, All NBA first rookie first team. Like, all of these things. And I think people, they need to look at those things and say, why did all of those happen? And that's because the Kings were really good. They won games. They won games where other teams didn't. They stayed healthy because they worked hard. They stayed on the court. They fought through injuries. Again, Domantas Sabonis, like, he tore a ligament in his thumb and had a broken thumb dating all the way back to December. Played through it. Keegan Murray, same thing. Like, these are things that happen. So I don't know. Like, if you're going to sit here and say how good the Golden State Warriors could be, and half of their roster is 34 and up, like, injuries are part of it. That's part of it. We talk about all the time. The Kings have this core group of players that are between 24 and 26 years old. 24 to 26-year-old NBA players usually are healthy. Like, so maybe this is by design. Maybe the one guy that is a little outside of your zone is Harrison Barnes, who's 30, 31. Yeah, he played 82 games. He always plays 82 games or real close to it, unless it's like shut it down at the end of the season. These are reliable players that play major minutes for teams historically. And so I'm not going to take away anything from what the Kings were able to accomplish.
James, the other thing that annoys me
is
when these people out here say the Kings had a chance to improve this offseason, and they didn't. They chose to run it back, if you will. They chose to stand pat. Here's my issue with that. We say the Kings had a chance to improve because they had cap space. They had money to spend. And we equate that as, well, you have money to spend. You can go get something. Who can you get that improves your team? Well, let's start with a name that we talked about a lot. Let's talk about Kyle Kuzma. One, I think we all think Kyle Kuzma is a good ball player. Will Kyle Kuzma have improved this team? Two, would Kyle Kuzma have willingly joined this team playing behind De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis in terms of, where you are in terms of the offense? And then you probably have an emerging Keegan Murray there as well. Not to mention, he got a weird contract. I don't know what the hell his contract is anymore. First, they said it was over $100 million. Then they said it was like, no, it's about $100 million. Then they said it was like 90-something million. I have no idea. These basketball contracts are being reported like NFL contracts now, and I have no idea what's what. But we look at cap space as a way to improve just because the money is there. It's like when people glamorize draft picks. You don't know what's at the other end of those draft picks. You don't know what's at the other end of that cap space. When people say they had a chance to improve and just didn't, they're referring to one thing and one thing only, and it was the Sacramento Kings' decision to re-sign Harrison Barnes. That's all they're talking about. They make no reference to, as you mentioned, JaVale McGee, to Sasha Vezenkov, to Chris Duarte. They make no mention of any of those guys. They look at the cap space and recognize that it was used on Harrison and Domantas Sabonis, and then figure they just punted on a way to improve, whereas I don't think the opportunity for improvement was really there.
No, I would agree with you. There are players that could have helped this team, sure, but they also got players that can help this team and players that fit into what they're doing. Like, look, we've talked about this so many times. Like, I hope that at some point the Kings have a legitimate shot at a guy like OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges, right? Like, I think that player fits in and improves your team instantly. Well, that player wasn't available this offseason. They just weren't. And like, if you're looking at this roster and you're saying we have to improve and we have to go out and do something just to do something, that's when mistakes are made. You had a team that in the first year together, because we got to go back, the only two guys that are left from this roster from the beginning of, let's say the end of the 2021 season, right? The only two players that are left are De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes. You made a monstrous trade, not last season, but the year before, right at the end of the year, where you brought in Domantas Sabonis, you brought in Trey Lyles, right? And then you go into the offseason, you draft Keegan Murray, you trade for Kevin Huerter, and you sign Malik Monk. So 5 of your players. Then you factor in that Davion Mitchell was a rookie. And so he was brought in at the beginning of the season. That's 6. 6 of your 8-man rotation were new together at the beginning of last season. And that group went out and posted the highest offensive rating in the history of the NBA. What do they look like in year 2? Why does change have to be like this big thing? Why do you have to make changes? You won 48 games in the first year under a new head coach, under a new system that worked to a T. This team has room to grow and to get better just by coming back and playing it back. Not to mention the additions that they made. The rim protection in JaVale McGee, the 3-point shooting in Sasha Vezenkov, the all-around game of Chris Duarte, and the defensive prowess of Chris Duarte. Like, these are actual improvements. And they also brought back Domantas Sabonis. And they, the fact that they couldn't find someone who they deemed better than Harrison Barnes, okay. Like, Harrison Barnes is middle of the NBA small forward. You didn't go backwards. You brought back a guy who played 82 games, who's one of the best pros in the game, who's on the NBA Players Association's executive council, like one of the most upstanding citizens in the league. You brought him back after he played 82 games and another 7 games in the playoffs. I don't know. I see where, like, sometimes standing pat which is something the Kings never do, it actually has an advantage here. And I don't even think they really stood pat. I think that they improved themselves.
Is there anyone? Do you have any insight on? Because obviously there will be guys who invited to training camp. Are there any names out there that have been invited that we might not have talked about yet?
Yeah, I I'm not sure exactly. Frankie Cardicelli put out that I think Chance Comanche is going to be brought in for a training camp invite, and our friend Brendan Nunez put out there that Deontay Burton have both been brought in. So those guys are roster spots number 18 and 19. They
Mm.
still have 2 more spots. They may not bring in anyone else, but those guys are going to be here in camp. Again, their camp invites, they probably got a little bit of a bonus, and then when they get cut, they both their rights belong to the Stockton Kings, so the Kings can just allow them, if they stick around for a certain amount of time, they'll get their bonus money for going to the G League and being part of the G League squad. Again, Chance Comanche was a guy who started the season last year on the Portland Trail Blazers roster and actually made it onto the main roster before being waived. And Deontay Burton actually got a 10-day contract with the Kings at one point last season as well. So these guys are really close to NBA players. They're like 4A players that, just haven't been able to like settle down and make it. But this is what you do. You build out like those extra players in training camp and you give them a little bit of extra money. So then that way, when they stick around in the G League, you've got, a reason to keep them.
You think anything's different this year in terms of their approach when camp gets underway next week? Maybe their
No.
thinking is differently. I mean, with this team, it felt like was really confident in themselves very, very early on. Probably headed in to the first game of the season, and I'll always reference Malik Monk saying, "We're fine. We're right there. We're doing the things we're supposed to." I think they're 0-4 at this time. We're doing the things that we're supposed to do. We've got to tighten up a few things at the end, but we're right there. We're perfectly fine. And he was right. But that type of comment in that type of moment for the Kings made me feel like they were confident going in. They were confident from jump about what they could do this year.
Yeah, I think that they were very confident coming into last season, and even like their confidence kind of bled over to like everything. Like you felt their confidence, and by watching them and seeing the things that they were doing, you could tell that they were super close. They just couldn't get wins early in the season, and then once the wins came, like it was very quick. Like it was like, hey,
Yeah.
look at that. Okay, they're right back on pace where you thought maybe they could be, and then we kept hitting those weird plateaus. Like they couldn't get to 5 games over 500. They could get to 4 games, but they couldn't get to 5 games over 500. And then all of a sudden they were able to get past that. And they just kept having these little like sticking points or plateau moments, and then they would blow through them. I know like this offseason, Doug Christie and Domantas Sabonis have been together almost the entire offseason working together. Like almost the entire offseason. A couple of days here and there they've taken off. And I know that De'Aaron Fox has been in town working with Keegan Murray nonstop. Davion Mitchell's been in town. Davion Mitchell's been working with Steph Curry's shooting coach. We saw some of these guys doing Rico runs together. Like this group is growing. Their chemistry is growing. It would be really weird to see them as a collective take a step backwards as they're just building chemistry, because
Mhm.
that's not sort of the type of player that they've brought in. That, they don't have a bunch of me guys. A bunch of guys are like sitting here going, just wait till I get my opportunity. That's not
Mhm.
who they are. They have system players, and then they have 2 stars, and then they have an up and coming young who they believe in Keegan Murray will be a star. So they have like these pieces in place. So, yeah, I think chemistry means something. I think staying together means something, and I think, like, I would be surprised if they weren't better at their craft in year 2 than they were in year 1. And that doesn't mean they win more games, Like the league changes, like you could see them take a step back a little bit. They could win 45 or 46 games, but they're still right there in the conversation. I
Or they
don't
could
think,
win 54.
yeah, or they could win 54. Exactly. Like if I were to bet what they were going to win this year, 51. That would be
Mm.
my number. But I could be way off. I've been way off before. I do this every year with Nate Duncan on the Dunked On podcast, where we go back and forth, and he gives his prediction, I give my prediction. Neither one of us are ever like spot on for sure. And
Nate
he's always,
Duncan's
what's that?
Nate Duncan's going to have the Kings at 17 wins.
Yeah, he might have them at, I would say he'll have them at 44 wins. That's where I would put them.
Okay.
Maybe 42. Like he might be a little bit less than that, but that's kind of where he'll be. But I really do think that continuity does mean something, and chemistry means something, and these guys are building together. And you can't go through a playoff series like what they did with the Golden State Warriors, where you take the champs to 7 games and not come out of it with an understanding of what you need to do to be better the next season. Because I certainly know every single one of those players thought to themselves afterwards, like, I could have done this, I could have done that. De'Aaron Fox, it breaks his fingertip. There's nothing you can do about that. And if he was right, I don't think that the same outcome would have happened. I think that they would have got past Golden State. But the fact that you had that experience as sort of a topper to whatever the regular season was, spectacular. It really sunk in what it means to make the playoffs, what it takes to get to the next level. And so I expect each and every one of those players to come back as individuals with a better understanding of who they need to be for this team going forward.
Yeah, people equate health to missed games, and I chuckle at that because we always talk about Domas playing like the entire year with a broken hand, forgetting that De'Aaron Fox got hurt in the 7-game playoff series against the Golden State Warriors and played through it. But we equate health to missed games and nothing else. We don't equate it to actual health, just missed games.
Yeah,
We've been programmed for that by your favorite duo in Los Angeles.
I think it matters though. We talked about all season long how we saw this huge moment in the season where Kevin Huerter in the first month and a half of the season, could do no wrong. He hit every single shot he took. I swear, it didn't matter where he was shooting it from. He shoots 53% from 3 in the first 6 weeks of the season. Then he has he hits a wall. And the same thing happens with Malik Monk, where from December 13th to late January, the guy's shooting 24% from the field. Nothing was going right. The Kings kept playing through the bumps and bruises that are the regular season because they're having a good time and they were believing in what they were building. And sometimes I think they did it to their own, they hurt themselves by doing it, but they kept playing. And I think the question that you asked, do you think they'll come in with a different approach? I wonder what Mike Brown comes in with, what kind of approach he comes in with, because I didn't know this, but I think it's 19 days during the regular season. You have to give them either 18 or 19 days off total, where they have to have complete off days. And this is something I had never heard before, but it's a rule by the NBA. The Kings had mapped out their off days before the season started, and then they stuck to it. And then they got to a point where they had to make a choice, do you want to work out on this day or do you want to work out on this day, to the team? And which off day do you want to take? Because we're down to one. We have one off day left. And this group wanted to play. Were they exhausted? Yeah. But I think everyone knew that the reason why they were so good together in year one was because they were putting in the work to be good. And I love that, we're seeing what they were last season in year one, but this season, they've had an entire off season to not only work on sort of the move to the move to the move on some of your offensive plays, your offensive play sets, but also to study the defensive playbook, figure out how to get better defensively, work together on getting better defensively. The growth potential on the defensive end of the ball for this team is off the charts. I mean, they weren't good, So, like, how do you get better? Well, they have one way to get better this season. They can be equally or close to what they were offensively last year. And I expect them to even be like have moments where they're more efficient and more like there are more wrinkles to the offense. But the defensive end, there's so much room for growth. And that's where Mike Brown's got to be like licking his chops coming into camp. Like, we can work on offense, but really we're going to focus on defense.
And when I thought about when I asked you that question earlier about the approach of the team entering the training camp, the person I was mainly thinking about, like, I framed it as players first, but I was thinking about Mike because you talk about on the defensive end, I think about that press conference in New York, or not in New York. It was in Sacramento. It was against New York on the TNT game where he's like, yeah, we got the win. We gave up way too many offensive rebounds. We get to the playoffs. That's not going to be enough. We have to rebound better. If we don't rebound better, we're going to be out of the playoffs early. And prophecy spoken. That's what wound up happening against the Golden State Warriors. But he picked his spot with that. It was late in the season. It was clear the direction of this team, and they had just gotten a win. I thought it was brilliant. They had gotten a win on national television, and he used that opportunity. They had gotten a win on national television against a really tough team, and he used that opportunity to point out their deficiencies and what they did wrong. I wonder if Mike starts pointing those things out a little earlier this year, if he points them out at all.
Yeah, no. I think he's going to do it very similar. When Mike does something, it is with intent. That's something that I've learned about him. Like, we can go back to when he gets tossed out of the game in Toronto. Like, there was specific intent,
Yep.
right? It was
Yep.
to somehow get respect for his guy in De'Aaron Fox, to make sure that the fouls started to like figure themselves out, because they weren't. Like, early in the season, De'Aaron Fox couldn't buy a foul. When he brought that stuff up, like, people have to understand that even though that the New York game, I don't believe was nationally televised game, it's New York media. Everything he says is going to be out there. Like, oh, look at this guy. He's yelling and screaming at his team, even though they're one of the best teams in the Western Conference right now. That message was spread loud and clear all over the place. And there were a lot of people on the East Coast that don't watch the Sacramento Kings, that don't stay up late to watch games, but they stayed up late because their Knicks were playing, who saw some of that. And that's good. That's what you're hoping to see. He is very like, he thinks these things through, and very pointed when he is upset about something. And then what happens in the playoffs? They get beat on the offensive glass.
Yeah.
The games they lose on the offensive glass. And it's something, like, he telegraphed what was going to happen. Well, that was some heavy duty foreshadowing by Mike Brown. And sure enough, he like nailed it. And that's what, they're going to try to clear up some of that stuff.
Eagles and Bucks coming up at the top of the hour here on ESPN 1320. We'll come back. We'll talk more with our 1320 Kings insider and host of the Insiders with Kyle Matson, which you can hear Monday through Friday, 10 to noon here on ESPN 1320. We'll talk more with James Ham when we return here on Sacramento Sports Leader ESPN 1320. It's kind of a long break here. It's like 6 minutes.
Oh, no problem.
And then we'll be out probably early, guys. It's like 53 because we got to get some commercials in before we go to that football game.
Oh, cool.
52:50. Jesus. Okay.
Oh,
this is
wow,
our last.
that's early.
It's our late. Yeah. Yeah, that happens sometimes when we carry these live games. We got to get them out of the way.
Yes, securing the beam. Jordy is getting one of the first coaching jobs. I guarantee it. His performance with Team Canada was like, no one has been able to harness the talent that is the Canadian national team. And finally, they get somebody who has a move in the right way. And that's not a disrespect on Jay Triano or anyone else.
He looked pretty delicate warming up right there, but that was probably by design.
Joe Burrow?
Yeah.
He's playing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what a mess that team is. Like, what?
Let's go, Baker. Let's go, Baker.
Then we can definitely say you're a Baker Mayfield guy.
I don't know why. I have no idea why. I'm really not. I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't know why I'm rooting for the dude, but he got on my nerves in college too.
He went from being like one of the darlings of the NBA, the NFL, to just like kick down the road and played for a couple of teams in one season. Ends up, in the Bucks. He seemed a little too good to just throw away like what happened.
Yeah, and I think people forget that last year in Cleveland, like he was injured.
His shoulder was basically like just nothing. It was torn to shreds.
He played until that team was eliminated. Like he fucking gutted it out, and
which is probably a mistake by him too.
Yeah, it was definitely a mistake by him. All that did was get him cut. And then where was it? Carolina.
Yeah, he went to Carolina and then the Rams.
Yep, went to the Rams. Yep.
He showed up like one day and then started like 2 days later.
Yeah.
Didn't he beat someone?
He did.
He beat the Raiders, huh? Was it with the Raiders?
Was it the Raiders? I don't remember who it was, but he had been on the team for a day and a half, and like that, figuratively, he wasn't on the team that long, and just beat whoever
yeah,
it was.
I think it was the Raiders.
Well, that's
man, the Raiders are a mess.
That's a shame.
I think I remember being the Raiders because they lost to Jeff Saturday that year too. I think.
Oh,
I think
Jeff
might be different
Saturday.
years,
but I think you're right. I think the Raiders did lose to Jeff Saturday, which is just gross.
Oh yeah. Again, why is their coach still employed? What that stuff he did yesterday? Like, what are you doing? Down 8, kicking a field goal with 3:11 left, and then you hit it, but you get a penalty. You move it up. You can't score again. You're at the 8-yard line. I just don't understand it.
AFC West has 2 of the worst coaches in the league.
Yep, Josh McDaniels and Brandon Staley. Yeah, Josh McDaniels, and he said post game he needed multiple possessions. Like, sorry, sir, it's an 8-point game. It's a 1-score game. You did not need multiple possessions.
I don't need to pull out the abacus to show you that you're incorrect. That and
don't make James pull out his abacus.
Don't do that.
Don't do
it. But here would the point that I made with Kyle. Let's say you don't get the touchdown, right? But then you have them pinned at the 8-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you believe that your defense is good enough to kick that field goal, which is what you're saying, or that their quarterback is bad enough, then why not make the mistake? And you could have sacked that guy. What if you got a sack for a safety? What if you got a fumble? You took away the element of possibility. But what if the guy is kicking from the back of the end zone and steps out of the end line? All of a sudden, it's a 6-point game. And you get the ball back. Or worst case scenario, he gets a punt off, but your return man gets it back to the 50. Now you're looking at a short field. So even if you would have made a mistake there, you still wouldn't have been pinned back like you were after, what happened at the end of the game.
See, James already a better coach than Josh McDaniels.
I don't understand it. I like Mike McDaniels. He's fun. Leezy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I don't know what the Jets do at this point. They have to do something because I was willing to, as someone who's watched it and go ahead and let Zach Wilson give it a shot and show you what he has. But didn't he have a play where he spun around in circles 3 times and then fell down this weekend for a sack?
Yeah, we should probably stop with Zach Wilson. That's kind of where I'm at. If the Jets want to compete, you've got to stop. We're coming back.
All right.
Eagles and Bucks coming up at the top of the hour. Also, it appears Joe Burrow is going to go for the Cincinnati Bengals. There are 2 Monday Night Football games tonight. Why, you ask? I don't know. I don't know why they're doing this again, but they are. But at least, in my opinion, both games are very, very good. The Eagles at the Bucks, both of those teams 2-0, and the Rams and the Bengals. Interesting one there with the Bengals looking to get a win. Of course, the Joe Burrow situation will loom over this quite large. Want to remind everybody that Kenny and myself, dealing with KC, we're going to be live at Solomon Vinyl coming up on Friday, October 6th. You can head over to ksfm.com right now. That's ksfm.com, our other station, and enter to win a VIP booth that includes dinner for four. James, it's going to be a cool event. We're going to be out there. We're going to be part of their curator series where we put the needle on the vinyl. We play some actual records, and we tell stories about those records and how that music we're listening to have influenced us. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a party. We're going to tell some stories, and it's going to be a great night at Solomon Vinyl. Friday, October 6th. We hope you could come through, hang out, have some food and drinks with us. And if you want to enter to win that VIP booth, head over to ksfm.com. All you got to do, put in your name, email address. It's as simple as that. James, if you were to put the needle on the vinyl for a song that starts the James Ham story, what song would it be?
That's a good question. Number one, I have a pretty solid vinyl collection. I also have a really nice record player. My wife bought for me. I don't know. Probably Don't Stop Believing.
Okay.
Journey.
Ernie? Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
mean, my career's been wild and crazy, and my start doing this is weird, and where I'm at now is awesome. But the path to get to where I am is like all kinds of ups and downs. Yeah. And I did like I don't have a Travis Scott record, like Katrina says here in the thing. Do they make a Travis Scott record?
They do make current vinyl. They do
Yeah.
have current albums on are on vinyl. I tried to avoid those. I do have a few of them. I have Kendrick. I had Complex gave me the new SZA album on vinyl, but I tried to stick to older records, the James Browns. I've found going through Dan the Record Man's collection a couple of times. There's a lot of concerts that went to vinyl that never went anywhere else. Like they're not on streaming platforms, they're not on tapes or CDs. They were printed on vinyl. Like I've got like Ike and Tina in like 10 different places. I didn't even know. I've got like 3 Marvin Gaye concert records, James Brown, 1968 concert. Like that's one thing I really loved about going through record collections, just finding stuff that I did not know existed.
I like, my genre of music is typically older, like classic rock and 80s, 90s. But like we have yard sale day here in the lake, and you can go around on yard sale day and just like swoop in and get so many really cool albums. Like
Oh,
there's
that's
all kinds of stuff just hiding out here. Just tool around. My dad will call, "Hey, I found so and so like over here," and got to go buy stuff.
Well, if you ask your armed security guard to not shoot me as I come to your house, like I would love to come rummage the garage sale at the lake and find some more records. Because at this point, I'm just buying all of Dan the Records Man records, and then I got to head over to 12 Wax in the next week or so to make sure I got enough records to tell some stories on October 6th at Solomon Vinyl.
Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds like a great time.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun for sure. The idea is it's 2 nights before the Kings' first preseason game. Now, the first preseason game, unfortunately, isn't here. I think that's actually the one in Canada. I think it's in Vancouver. If I'm not mistaken.
Vancouver, Rogers Center.
And but that was the idea. We're headed into Kings season. Let's bring D'Lo and Casey in here to do something at Solomon Vinyl. So that's pretty exciting. And then 2 days later, we'll be watching Kings basketball, which is just amazing to think about.
It's wild.
This offseason flew by, man. This offseason absolutely flew by.
It did. The anticipation for starting the Insiders was like, it ended up eating weeks and weeks and weeks of like getting ready, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, it's happening, or wait, we got to hold off for. Oh no, it's happening.
It was
Like,
supposed to be in August. Like, let's just put that out there. It was supposed to
yeah,
start the show at the beginning of August.
yeah, it didn't happen. It didn't
Did
happen
not.
that way. But I think it happened the way it was supposed to happen, where 2 weeks in, I take a vacation. About 5 weeks in, Kyle takes a vacation. That's how it's supposed to happen. We're
And
just
right smack dab in the middle of that, Kenny's gone.
Candy's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll survive it all.
Yeah. So it's great because we'll come back. You'll be here next week, but Kyle will be out, but like it'll be training camp. Kyle gets back. Now all of a sudden, like Kings games are being played. ESPN 1320s in full force, like those. It is. Oh, I cannot wait. I can't wait to talk about actual Kings basketball. I can't wait to talk about actual games. I can't wait to be able to, talk to you coming from practice and talk about games that we've actually seen and put these hypotheticals away, put all of this. I wonder if this is going to happen. I wonder if that's put all of that stuff aside and just talk Kings basketball.
You're excited to see me work until like 11 o'clock on a Tuesday
Yes.
night, come back at 8 o'clock in the morning to be there for a 10 o'clock show, and then wave to you as I'm going to practice for that afternoon, and then stop by on my way home and break down practice. There it is.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, I'm excited for you to do that for like 9 months.
For like 82 games.
James is enjoying his last week. See, all this week, take Mrs. Ham, attorney at law, to dinner. Go get some drinks at Paul Martin's, all your favorite little spots. Go visit all your favorite bartenders and your favorite chefs, James, because it's over. We're relying on you for content and practice news and notes and all of that stuff. It's over for you, James. This is it. Enjoy your last week, buddy.
That's why the cruise, I didn't expect the cruise to have so much downtime. It was really nice. It was nice to take a breath, but really to like spend a lot of time with the lovely Mrs. Ham, because what my wife has to put up with during the season is just ridiculous. Just in like me coming in at 12:30 at night on most nights, and the dog waking everyone up when I walk in the door.
Mm.
And so no one actually gets a good night's sleep. It's a lot, especially when you have kids and you've got all the things that, having a regular life. And then all of a sudden I just disappear for 6 months, and it's very difficult.
It does take a very special person to put up with what we do for a living.
Yeah, it does.
Particularly you, because I don't stay till the end of games, and I don't have to talk to Coach Mike Brown. You do.
You don't have to wait an hour and 15 minutes to see whether De'Aaron Fox is going to come out wearing a green do-rag or a red do-rag at 11:15 at night, knowing that you still have an hour drive home.
Do-rag De'Aaron and no dunking De'Aaron is a era of Sacramento Kings basketball that is hopefully behind us forever.
Yes.
It really is wild to think that De'Aaron Fox went on a dunk strike. He was just like, I'm not dunking on this sorry ass team anymore. I refuse to dunk until you trade Buddy Hield.
Oh.
I don't think that's what he said. But I want to believe that's what he said. I'm not dunking anymore until you trade Buddy. And that didn't work, so his ankle hurt. I think it was his ankle.
What I love too is that one of the first things Monk said was, I'm going to get De'Aaron Duncan again. Like, I'm going to get my guy Duncan. And then, they had those moments where they're, throwing lobs to each other. Just spectacular. So, I think like the revitalization of not only the Sacramento Kings, but realistically, De'Aaron Fox is spectacular. Like I didn't know if I would get to stick around long enough doing this. I lasted, before last season, it was 12 years coming in, and we talked about it. My record was like 240 games under 500 for my career. And you just don't know. Like, all I know is losing, and all I can see is what it's doing to a young guy in De'Aaron Fox, and how it's, you just feel like the weight of the world pushing down on his head the whole time. And, he might be listed at 6'3", but at a certain point you felt like he's starting to look more like 5'5". because of all the weight of this franchise weighing him down. And then to see not only the team find success for the first time in, 16 years, but a young player who, you thought might have been broken by the situation, like find his joy again. That's probably like my highlight to last season. Like everything positive in the world happened for De'Aaron Fox last year, and he got married. He had a son. He made the All-Star team. He made All NBA. He broke the curse. He got to the playoffs. All of these things. You're waiting for that to happen for him, and I didn't know that it would ever happen for him in Sacramento. Just like I didn't know if I would ever get to cover a playoff game in Sacramento.
I wonder if he was ever close to, like, and I'd love to ask him this sometime, because the good times are here with the Sacramento Kings. Like, was he ever close to a breaking point? And if so, like, how close? To where it's at a certain point? Because I don't feel like he had seasons, plural, left of that version of this franchise. They had to get it right, and they had to get it right pretty quickly. I wonder how close he was to, I can't do this anymore. Like, I've done everything. Y'all got to get me out of here.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that. And the other one, I'm also intrigued by Harrison. I want to know when Harrison, the switch went off for him. Because I saw it at the end of the year before. Like De'Aaron was under contract. There's nothing he could do.
Yeah.
Right. If he was going to leave, it would be either a request or it would be like a subtle request or behind the scenes, or it would be like, hey, we've just got to reboot and start over again. But with Harrison, like we saw it not last season, but the season before, the end of the year, he looked done. And then they almost trade him right before training camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to know when he felt like the shift and when he felt like, oh my gosh, maybe I will stay here. Maybe this is something. Maybe like, how in the world did this happen that we stumbled upon something after all this time of missing? And so I'm intrigued by that because even like at the end of the year, he and I had that funny moment where I asked him, like in our post game, like, look, if this is your last game in Sacramento, what do you have to say for the to the fans? And he made the joke, like, it's not like I'm dying or something. Um, I hope I'm back and all that stuff. But I want to know when he said, you know what, this is probably the right spot for me. And they, him and his wife had put down roots here. They've had their daughter while they've lived here. They've got business ventures and all this other stuff around this area. But when did he say, okay, I probably can finish my career or come close to it, or at least stick around for another 3 years here?
Yeah, it's fascinating, and thankfully, those times are behind us.
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox man, he looks happy. When your team doesn't suck and your fans aren't vomiting and your coach isn't talking about watching the tape, man, things can turn around pretty quickly. And that's, kind of what happened. It feels like you have a general manager, an executive of the year, if you will, who is fully invested in every little move that this team makes, is calculated in all of his steps. And I think you pointed this out earlier. The Kings made moves that allow them to be extremely flexible. The Kings made moves to where if there's, and you use the OG Anunoby example. Of course, we know OG Anunoby will never be traded from Toronto. That's just virtually impossible at this point. But if, hell were to freeze over, the Kings have put themselves in a position where they could offer a competitive trade package for a player of that type. And that's a credit to Monty. One of my biggest frustrations with this franchise in the past was they never saw anything ahead. Like they saw what was directly in front of them, but nothing out in front of them. They never looked past what was directly in front of them. And now it feels like Monty has a great eye on both what's right in front of them and what could potentially be in the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know like the national narrative is that the Kings didn't do enough. They're right here on the precipice of, they could have done something amazing and it would have been great. And the fact is, like, it's very possible that OG Anunoby, who has had injury issues in his past, plays 65 games a year, 70 games a year on a good year, but that extra 12 to 17 games that Harrison Barnes plays every year would more than balance out any positives you'd get from getting a guy like OG Anunoby. That a guy that is there and solid and plays his role can actually provide something for you when he's playing all 82 games and consistency and all that stuff. But I'd also like look at the way the Kings structured this offseason. And I think it's something that why can't they go out and become a major player if the right star becomes available? And it's something that I will just keep pointing to. You look at Trey Lyles, he signed a 2-year, $16 million deal. That's an $8 million contract this year, December 15th. Like, I'm not saying they're trading Trey right now, but if they need to, they have that option. Kevin Huerter's contract, $17 million, $18 million for Harrison Barnes, $10 million for Malik Monk. Like, all of these contracts are movable in the right trade if you're going to somehow get the big money player that you've been looking for. And they're all under contract except for Monk, multiple years. So a team that could be losing somebody next summer might be willing to make a deal with you at, closer to the trade deadline that yields the player that the Kings believe that they're missing. But then again, maybe you don't need it. Maybe you don't need another player. Maybe this team is designed perfectly and everything works well, and there isn't a better option. A bigger star name with a higher value contract may not make you a better team, and the players that you have in place might be the right answers. So I just think that when you bring up, the look at today, but also the future, I mean, it's sitting right there. Like, the pieces are there. If you need to go make a deal, the draft picks are there. Like, I think the bigger questions are, like, do you need to make moves, or is this team going to be good enough? What gets you over the top?
This is the year they won't have a pick, right?
Well, if they make the playoffs, if
Yeah.
they make the playoffs and they don't have a pick. But it's also the year that if you get to the trade deadline and you are a playoff team and you're a pretty locked in playoff team, you can also start adding in those little nuances to a trade that says the 2026 first round pick, the 2028, the 2030. You can package 3 first round picks, if it looks like you're going to be a playoff team. And so there's more stability. The deeper the Kings get into this season as a winner, the more value their 2026 pick has. Because then it's not a 2026 or 27 pick. It's a 2026 pick.
That's low key something I can't wait to see is what, like, is Masai Ujiri just going to, no, they're just going to leave for nothing. Particularly OG. Like, I'm not trading him. He's just going to leave for nothing.
Yeah.
And try to get Dame out of this so OG can then leave Portland in a year. Like, that's wild. I know Dame, Harden, all of that stuff. I want to see how the Toronto stuff unfolds.